Hello and welcome, I'm Ken Gowdy from Sax Comprehensive, and this is part 2 in a 2-part series looking at understanding chords. In this video we will look at more complex chords consisting of 4 notes or more. So if you want to be able to recognize and understand and build complex chords, then keep watching. In part 1 of this series we looked at triads, slash chords and suspended chords. We learned what type of chords naturally occur on the degrees of the scale and how to create them on the root by altering the notes of the chord. In this video we will look at more complex chords consisting of 4 or more notes. The more common chords in this category with their written notation would be the major 7th, the dominant 7th, the minor 7th, the half diminished 7th, the diminished 7th, the augmented major 7th, the minor major 7th, some form of extended or altered 7th, and the 6th chord. To start, let's see what type of 7th chords occur on the degrees of the scale. So let's once again write out all of the major scales and number each of its degrees. Now let's build up a 7th chord on the root by taking the root, the 3rd, the 5th and the 7th note. You have now created all of the major 7th chords. So for example, here are all of the notes for the G major 7th chord. If you do the same on the 2nd degree, then you have created all of the minor 7th chords. You also have minor 7th chords occurring on the 3rd degree of the scale. On the 4th degree are the major 7th chords. On the 5th degree is what is called the dominant 7th chord. On the 6th degree are the minor 7th chords again. And on the 7th degree we have what is called the half diminished 7th chord. There is also a full diminished 7th chord, usually referred to as the diminished 7th. But this is created using notes not in a scale, and so we will discuss this a little later. This is how the chords look on a musical staff for the key of C major. The major 7th chords occur on the root and on the 4th degree of the scale. The minor 7th chords occur on the 2nd, 3rd and 6th degree of the scale. The dominant 7th chord occurs on the 5th degree of the scale, and the half diminished chord occurs on the 7th degree of the scale. We also use Roman numerals to label these chords, so if you see the popular chord progression 2-5-1, it means that the minor 7th chord that occurs on the 2nd degree of the scale is followed by the dominant 7th, which is then followed by the major 7th. All these chords can be played in their inversions, which basically means that a chord is arranged with a different chord note at the bottom. As well as these chords occurring naturally on the degrees of the scale, we can create them on the root of the scale by altering various notes. If we start with the major 7th chord, which consists of the root, the 3rd, the 5th and the 7th notes, and we flatten the 7th note, we will produce a dominant 7th chord. Now starting with the dominant 7th chord, if we flatten the 3rd note, we will create a minor 7th chord. Starting with the minor 7th chord, if we flatten the 5th note, we create the half diminished 7th chord. Lastly, if we start with the half diminished 7th chord and flatten the 7th note again, we create the diminished 7th chord. Now, once we have an understanding of these 7th chords, we can make some additional adjustments to create a more dissonant sound and add more tension to the music. These adjustments will involve adding extensions such as the 9th, the 11th and the 13th note, or a combination of them, or by making alterations such as raising and lowering these notes. The 5th may also be altered. However, these extensions and alterations are only really used on certain chords to avoid causing clashes with other notes and creating too much dissonance. This leads us to the following table. When using extensions or alterations, notes in the main chord may be left out, like the 3rd or the 5th. The 7th note is usually kept. So to create a more complex chord, simply take the main notes of the 7th chord and add the appropriate extensions or make alterations. Here are some examples of chords with their written notation. The augmented major 7th chord consists of an augmented triad with a major 7th. So the C augmented major 7th chord has the notes C, E, G sharp, which is the augmented triad, and the major 7th note B. The augmented 7th chord, which is different from the augmented major 7th chord, consists of an augmented triad with a minor 7th note. The minor major 7th chord consists of a minor triad with a major 7th note. The major 6th chord consists of a major triad with a 6th note. The C major 9 chord consists of a major 7th chord with an added 9th. The C7 sharp 9 flat 13th chord consists of a dominant 7th chord with a raised 9th and flattened 13th. The 11th note is usually not included together with the 13th note. C minor 9 consists of a minor 7th chord with an added 9th. C9 sus4 chord is a C9 chord, which is a C7 chord with the addition of the 9th note, but here the 3rd is replaced by the 4th note, converting this chord into a sus chord. So as you have seen, complex chords can be broken down into smaller chords with added notes, extensions or alterations. The reason why we use complex chords rather than simpler ones is because complex chords give us a more interesting sound and creates more tension. The chord progression 2-5-1 occurs a lot in jazz. In the key of C, that would be D minor 7, G7 and C major 7. However, we could use more complex chords for this progression. The composer would have to decide whether it sounds better or not. Listen to this progression first played with just 7th chords and then with more complex chords. Do you notice any difference? So the purpose of these two videos was to get you to the point where you can understand and recognize chords. If you recognize chords, then you know what notes are involved in those chords. If you know what notes are in a chord, then obviously you can improvise around those notes and obviously improve your improvisation. So hopefully you've understood everything that I've had to say, and hopefully you found this video helpful and informative. If you did, then obviously give it a like, share it with your friends. And if you're not yet a subscriber, then consider subscribing to this channel. And I shall see you in the next video. Bye-bye.